Guess who was talking with their thing muted and their camera off, so you couldn't see that I was talking. That's funny. Okay, past results. One of the things that I would like to echo is that this has been kind of an exponential jaunt up the mountain over the past few years. And we as a state had to get a lot of infrastructure in place, model documents. A lot of work was done in the early days by our former chief privacy officer, David Saleh and Whitney Phillips and their teams. And we've inherited, an amazing infrastructure here in our state. And that has allowed us as a team to really charge ahead to get it to where we as a state are experiencing the results that we are now. Some of you may or may not know that compliance in the last few years has not necessarily been something that we've been um, extremely successful with in some of our numbers, just because it's difficult. Privacy is difficult to understand and wrap your head around, and to bake it into your system if it's not already there. But we have really grown a ton. What I would like you to do is, last night I sent out an email to every LEA in the state with a link to the report that you see on the right. If you did not receive this, then maybe we do not have the correct contact information for your agency. But this report should be something that hopefully you're able to look at now in conjunction with this webinar, so that we can kind of crosswalk where you are at, and that will help position you to know what those next 8 weeks look like for you. Do you need to attend the fall training in order to help complete this? Do you need to set up time with us to go through this and work on it together? Or do you feel confident that you can just, give us an assurance that we're good? Let's take a look at some of these numbers. These are really awesome metrics. We have 60%, 69% of all of the compliance. All of our 69% of all the LEAs in the state have all 4 of their annual privacy notices ready to go on their websites or available to parents in another fashion. That's amazing. That's actually not a metric that is going to be very hard to complete. Um, and we'll talk about those policy documents here in a second. But that's something that I would like for a lot of you to take a look at. This is a really easy metric for us to complete. The hope is that, you've got a parent that goes to your website and is curious, and it's easy for them to find these things. It's not buried deep in your space, or where you give them the availability to look at this. What kind of apps you're using? What kind of data is being transferred? Do you have your policy documents to back some of this up if parents do ask questions about these things? Metadata dictionary. This one is out of control, on fire, running at the speed of light. I believe that last year, we as a state were probably in, and I don't know if you can see my mouse, the single to teen digit numbers as far as metadata dictionary compliance. That is a ridiculous jump. Congratulations. The metadata dictionary is the most nuanced thing to complete. There's so many little tiny things, and look at this. Like, I can't congratulate you enough for putting in your time and for bothering us. You have taken privacy seriously, is really what this comes down to. And you see the need for that transparency because you're understanding that parents are really coming around to this side of the conversation. Overall compliant, look at this, 50%, 78, Elliot 79, actually, we're over 50%. Have complete compliance. Now, there's 2 different words that we're going to use. There's compliance, which is in regard to last year. That means that the report that you're looking at is totally green. and comprehensiveness. Comprehensiveness is where we're going, but I wanted to delineate that we've got these two C words that we're kind of putting out there. Compliance, which is last year, that we wanted to like have all of these elements, that we've got all this baseline foundational stuff going. And then comprehension means that we can launch from compliance up and get everything just consolidated and curated so that when these questions come, and I think they will, that you can say to the parents that are asking them, look, all this stuff is readily available. We're totally prepared to answer any questions you have about what happens with your student data and what kind of elements your student is subject to during the day in regard to a lot of the vendors and stuff that you work with. Policy documents, these are the four. The annual notice of FERPA rights is that's a federal kind of document that we're telling all of our parents, like, this is your law, this is your data. When they're coming to you and saying, what are my rights? You can say, well, you can amend your child's record. You know, we can talk about that. You can, you can view your record whenever you want to. You can share the data with who you're the one that gets to decide who gets to look at the data. Like this is your stuff. And then the directory information notice, like, well, who are you sharing? In what ways are you going to share it and not ask for my permission? I'm the parent here, and I'm asking you. And you can say, well, these are all the ways that we're going to share it without asking you every single time that somebody asks for data. You can just say, yeah, I'm cool. And if they want to opt out, this is where they can opt out. And we want to pay special attention to those families that opt out. There are a lot of reasons that families can opt out of this, but that means that they're opting out of a lot of all of the things that are on this list. Then the next part, the student data collection notice. Well, what kinds of things are you as an LEA collecting about the student? I, as a parent, may want to know those kinds of things. And this is where you're talking about, what things we're not collecting. And in here, it's very important to note that we're not collecting specifically Social Security numbers, because that puts you as an LEA at risk, and it's kind of against law. And then the pink one, data governance plan. How are you as an LEA planning to store this information? How are you planning to manage it? How are you planning to get rid of it when the time comes? What are you planning to do if there's a data breach? What happens? And those happen. We've had them recently, and that has actually had us talk about the data that we've left in our systems, the data that hasn't been deleted. So these are very close to being compliant. So I'd look for this, 6% right here, the 6% of you that don't have this annual FERPA notice. We will give you access to a model document that you can put on your website as soon as your board approves it. Same thing goes for this directory information notice. These 10% student data collection, look, 4%, come on, we can do this. Some of this actually, these two are related to this little tiny clause. It's called the military and institutions of higher education. Essentially, if you have 11th and 12th graders, what we need to do is just add a couple of words followed by some punctuation, and this number goes up. It's trivial, but we need it. It's important for how you're communicating someone. And then 8% here. Like, if we can get this up, this is super easy, folks. You can do this by the end of the day if you wanted to. I mean, pending board approval, of course. Privacy compliance. Okay, so metadata dictionary. For those of you that are new, and there are many of you that are probably new, and if you're new, say hi to us in the chat. Say, hey, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. And that's okay. It took me 2 years to understand some of what we're talking about right now. But what we're looking at right here is of the 156 local education agencies in the state of Utah, almost 60% have passed. The metadata dictionary is a piece of legislation that suggests or requires us to have a display on our website that shows a lot of different variables. One, what is the name of the vendor that you are working with and sharing data? Two, what is the purpose for using this piece of equipment? You want to tell me, I'm the parent. What's the purpose? Why are you using this thing? Why can't you have the grandma come in from down the street and get out her stopwatch and her typewriter and type to see how fast my kid types? And you're like, sir, that's ridiculous. We're just going to use nitro type. Okay. So that would be something that we do. That's the purpose. It's the blah, 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 blah. Then we've got, what is the FERPA justification that says that you can use this without asking me every single time? And that's essentially that school official, that old lady that's coming in to do the typing assessment. She would be doing something that, the typing program would be doing something that some other person in your agency would otherwise be doing. And then we want to know by whose authority or jurisdiction, or who made the decision that this was something that needed to be used. And there's three elements. One would be like a federal decision, and that happens few and far between. Something would be like maybe, like a child nutrition program. That's like the Department of Agriculture funding, stuff like that. There is state ones. A lot of those are our assessment programs. And then the local ones, like, Canvas is a state contract, but you chose to use it. So it's not a state required one. It's state available, but you chose locally to use Canvas. So it was a local decision. So we have federal, state, and local. And then we have this other aspect where we just need to see what are the names of the data elements that are being shared and what are their definitions. So we've got different systems for helping you do this, to help make it so streamlined, so quick, that this becomes workflow and not work. Because, as we talked about, like, privacy is not your job. It's a component of your job. It's an essence that you need to be cognizant of. But, like, we're the people that think about privacy all day long. And so let us support you. So when it comes to listing all of those characteristics for each one of those products, almost 60% of us have all of those elements. And there are three different ways that this can be done. And for those of you that are new, we'll talk about those three different ways that this can be completed. We've got some that are incomplete. And you know what? This is back to that, like, little tiny trivial things that maybe like you're missing a purpose for a piece of software. And that's just one tiny little element that's tripping it up. We can clean that stuff up so quickly. So if you're looking at your document, if you're looking at your report, and you see something under the metadata dictionary, which is the bottom area, and you've got something that's yellow or red, I guarantee you we can clean that up in under an hour. Piece of cake. Same thing goes for you folks that have missing stuff. You know what? Sometimes missing means that you changed your website and somebody that you weren't in communication with broke the link. The link's not there. Or there used to be a system, for those of us that have been around since the dinosaurs, that the state sponsored in the data gateway. That tool, well, since I've been with USBE, which is almost 4 years now next week, never worked. I've never seen it working, but some of you still have that link there. So let's get all of this cleaned up. I tell you, if you can set up a meeting with us, maybe 2 between now and November 15th, you will be compliant. I guarantee. So the takeaways. Celebrations, like, you guys can do the champagne or you can do the sparkling. I don't care, but you got to pop something, because for real, 47% growth, that's ridiculous. And all that does is just show me that there's so much momentum, and it makes us so inspired to, like, the next steps, the next things that we want to do to help you curate this culture of privacy in your in your agency. We can do it. It's not going to take very long. We have a big opportunity, like you can see here. And then, you know what? Who knows? Who knows what this next school year is going to look like with generative AI and different things. And who knows? Maybe parents are going to be curious as to what kind of data is being shared. Maybe they're going to be a little bit more aware and cognizant, and they're going to be wanting to ask questions as the years go on, as this gets more and more ubiquitous in the lives and in our education system. And I just want to help all of you be prepared to have the conversation with a parent when they come to you with questions about how the data moves. And I think that if we can do this, you will be able to answer all of those questions with confidence.